Hey everybody, I'm your tech and photo enthusiast, and I finally got my hands on the Lenovo Legion Go. I am so excited. It took a whole month, but it's finally here, and we're gonna unbox it together. Now, I pre-ordered mine from Best Buy. I got the 1TB model because it was only $50 more than the base model, which is 512 gigs of storage. Personally, at a $50 difference, it's a no-brainer to go with the 1TB model. However, if you're planning to upgrade the SSD yourself to something beyond a terabyte, I would get the 512 gig in that situation. Then again, Micro Center is offering people the ability for them to upgrade the SSD for you with either a 1TB or a 2TB model, and they're only charging $50 more on the 1TB model or $100 more on the 2TB model, labor included, which is pretty interesting because their 2TB inland brand SSD is more than that premium. So I don't know how they're going through with that. Anyway, let's open this up. Ooh, sorry. Let's see what's inside. Now, opening it up, we got basically the Legion Go case and another box right over here. Got this cool, I don't know if you could see it, it's like holographic texture. I don't know. Let's take it out. So inside here is a nice big old case that says Legion right on top. It's got the little flap in the front here, so you could charge your device. Check out these zipper pulls. They got the Legion logo on them. It's actually pretty cool. What else do we have? Little handle. And then unlike the Steam Deck case, it's actually flat in the bottom. It doesn't bulge in. So I really hope we could fit the charger in here, but I doubt it. We'll find out though. Okay, I'm gonna put this aside. Apparently you can get the best from your device. Those Lenovo services. Okay, cool. Put that aside as well. I see a little tab down here, and that is just documentation. That's not very interesting, and nothing else beyond that. Let's take out this box, and it's a charger. Anything else? No, nothing else inside here. Pretty big box for just a charger, but it makes sense. They got to fill the void somehow. Let's put that also over here. Move that aside. We've got the charger over here. Charger is obviously USB-C. So it's a 65 watt charger. Cable's non-detachable, and the prongs are fixed in place. So you actually can't fold them into itself to make this a little more compact, which kind of sucks. The cable looks rather long, but I don't know exactly how long it is. But we're not here for the cable. We're here for the device. So let's get to that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to put everything back in here. That'll have to do. No, I'm just kidding. To the ground. Now to the case. As mentioned, it's got the flap for charging your device, which I would recommend only doing when the device is off. I don't know how it would do if it's in sleep mode. You may accidentally turn it on, cause it to heat up in this little case, especially if it's like sitting in your backpack and charging off a power bank or something. Now opening it up, wow, that is a lot of padding. It's actually quite a bit of padding. Does this come off? No, it doesn't. But it feels hollow. Interesting. Here, the Legion Go. Take it out. Wow. This thing is actually pretty big. I was expecting it to be big, but it looks and feels bigger than they kind of make it out to be in the videos, which is very interesting. Let's see. The D-pads are, they look like they're a little bit smaller than that of the Steam Deck, but they're rubbery. I'm not really a big fan of them being rubbery, but they feel good. The buttons are nice and clicky. Just fine. I don't know what you call these two on the top, the little function buttons for Legion space probably. And then D-pad, not a fan of this D-pad. I wasn't a big fan of the Steam Deck D-pad, but this is a little worse. I don't know. I don't play many fighter games to care that much about a D-pad, but one thing I do like to play are the Tony Hawk games on the emulators, and having a good D-pad actually makes a huge difference when you're trying to do certain tricks. So we'll see how that goes. Start and select feel exactly like these top two buttons. What is this? LB, RB, they feel fine. Triggers are good. You know, honestly, everything is pretty easy to reach, even like the back buttons. Oh, that's gonna, that threw me off. So we have a back button here and here. And then there's one over here and here. Because I'm used to the Steam Deck, I'm used to just clicking these just for fun because I have them programmed to do absolutely nothing on the Steam Deck. But when I try to press over here, there's no button because it's over here. So that really threw me off. But this is supposed to be a mouse button labeled M3. And then this is Y3. So I believe that's when you're in your FPS mode, and then this is for, I actually don't know. We're gonna have to find out together, because I've watched enough videos to get the idea of this device, but I haven't like watched all of them in depth and took notes, because I actually wanted to experience it for myself as well. Not a fan of this though. It's got the whole like serial number and everything right here around the side. And then it's got some more over here, which I would prefer they just throw all of this on the back, preferably under the kickstand, which they do have information under the kickstand, but come on, guys. Speaking of which, that is a very firm kickstand. Look at that. Huh. Well, it looks like that's about as far back as it goes. Oh, you could see my face in the top-down camera. That's kind of creepy. Hi, everybody. Oh, sweet. It can stand like this, even with the kickstand out. What happens if I bring it down? No, it can stand on its own. Check that out. I don't know why I'm so intrigued by that, but I am. Anyway, you know what's crazy is this whole time, like, it feels like one device. It feels like this thing is all one piece. These controllers have very, very little, like, give. If I try to, you know, move them back and forth, you can barely even tell on the top down. It's hard to tell. There is a little bit, very minor give, but they're on there pretty well. Like, you forget that they're detachable until you actually detach them, which I will do very soon. Let me finish up with the case, and I'm going to talk more about the device. And then inside, we got this little hockey puck for your FPS mode. Actually, pretty good, nice and smooth, although it's on a glass surface. Probably better off on a mouse pad. And then I remember from Dave 2D's video, they've got this little thing right here, so you can put extra joysticks. The joystick tips, apparently these are like removable somehow. Okay, you know what? That didn't sound good, so I'm not going to remove it. Does this one come off easily? Oh, here we go. That's it, right here. It's a little joystick tip. Comes right off very easily, which is good news, because I'm not a fan of these rubberized ones, so I wonder if I'll be able to easily replace them with something maybe closer to that of like a PS4 controller or the Steam Deck or literally anything else. Then again, I'm not the most pickiest person, so I'm sure I can get used to this very easily. Touchpad is in a pretty interesting spot. Like, it's very easy to get to while still trying to reach these triggers. Like, I can easily use this and press the triggers all at the same time. However, when I'm using it, like if I'm using it, the triggers are a little bit of a reach. Just a little bit. And I got pretty massive hands to give you guys an idea. Back to the case. None of this comes off. I mean, this is a lot of padding, and it feels very hollow, which is kind of a bummer, because if they put like a better padded material that was thinner, we might actually have room for the charger. But at least they could fit the hockey puck. What I honestly don't understand is they have this area for the joystick. Why couldn't they put another? I mean, really, there's 2 joysticks on this device. Whatever. All right, I'm done with the case. Case is going away. I'm going to talk about the device. And this can go away as well. Goodbye. Back to this. Let's go over the buttons. We got D-pad that I wasn't a big fan of. Very clicky. I can probably get used to it, but we'll see how it goes. I just wish it was a little bit raised up. I'm mostly used to, I actually still use a PlayStation 3 controller when I game on my PC, but lately I've been using an Xbox like Series S controller, and I got very used to the clicky D-pad on that one. This one will probably take me some getting used to, but we'll see. The A, B, X, Y buttons feel fine. Joysticks are nice and clicky. Surprisingly, like the diameter of them feels small, so it doesn't look like they'll go very far, but they are Hall sensor based, so hopefully a little goes a long way. Trackpad is, I mean, a pretty decent size. Personally, I like seeing the trackpad just to make navigating windows a lot easier than using a joystick. And then your start select buttons, very easy to press, very easy to reach. And then the top, we've got the power button, headphone microphone combo, most likely exhaust vent, SD card, USB 4, which supports the full 40 gigabits. That's actually pretty cool. Volume buttons, then you got your LB, RB right here, analog triggers, kickstand, which is actually very nice and firm. It's a very nice kickstand. And then the kickstand, you've got a little lip here, so you can actually like put your finger in and try to pull it out. And then in the bottom, we have a second USB 4 port, I believe also supports 40 gigabits, which according to the specs, they both support 40 gigabits. That's actually pretty cool. So it doesn't limit you if somebody created a bottom dock for this, like a docking station, or if you wanted to connect it to the top, it actually doesn't limit you which one you use, which is very cool. And then you can also charge it from both, which is also really cool. Let's see what else. We got back buttons. I've already mentioned we have the 2 over here, one here, one here. And then this one, we've got one over here and then one over here, rather than like top and bottom. And what else? And then we have these mouse buttons, M1, M2, M3. So 1, 2, 3, and then scroll wheel. And this is the Y button. Down here, we've got the little switch. So you can go from your basically FPS mode or non. And then the mouse sensor. Mouse sensor. I don't know. I feel like I wish there was like a little slider to cover it and uncover it just to keep it from accumulating dust if you don't use it very often. You know, like those privacy like covers that they make for laptops now. I mean, many laptops have them built in nowadays, but it would actually be nice if they kind of implemented that with a switch. So that way when you like switch it to FPS mode, it'll open up the mouse sensor. And then when you switch it off, it'll actually cover it. So that way you're not like collecting dust when you're not using it. Because honestly, I don't know how often I'm going to use the FPS mode. Most of the time when I'm using a handheld gaming device, I'm actually like, you know, on a chair, a couch, in a car. I don't have like a surface I could put my mouse on. Regardless, should be fine though. Something I would watch out for. And that's basically it. Let's see how these joysticks detach. So I push the button and I believe, yep. So you just slide down and they come right off. That's all it takes. Let's put that down. Then let's see if I can do it without looking. I'm gonna use my pinky. So I just push down. Well, that's all it takes. Basically, I just put my screen like this. And now I can game like this. These are pretty big. Okay, Lenovo basically mentioned that these are a lot larger than people were expecting compared to like a Nintendo Switch controller. And because of that, they have mentioned a lot of reviewers don't really find the need for like a bracket to kind of make it like a one-piece controller, so to speak. Part of me agrees with them that yes, this actually feels pretty comfortable split like this, where I could probably play a game. However, because I'm like gripping it, trying to make sure I don't accidentally drop it or anything like that, I keep finding myself pressing these back buttons. And because of that, I would actually prefer if they did make some form of like a bracket that these can like connect to, and then it becomes a controller. So that way, because I have the habit sometimes where like when I'm using a controller, I'll let go of one side for a split second to just like readjust my hand for whatever reason. It's just something I do. But with this, it's like every time I try to readjust, let's say I want to use these and then like quickly go down to the trackpad. I could see myself every time when I'm going down, I accidentally could squeeze pretty much the back button. Now again, for me, I don't use the back buttons, at least not yet. I haven't found a use for them on my Steam Deck. I don't know if I'm going to find a use for them for this, but for somebody that does, it may take some getting used to not accidentally press them. You know, when you're in this mode and you're like stressed or you're squeezing the controllers or it's, I don't know, you're playing some intense match, anything could happen. Let's see how it is putting them back. Although I will say these pogo pins, very well made. And they don't even like, they don't poke you when you push on them. They don't hurt at all, which is actually interesting. And a very good thing too. They're not sharp, they're like, so as you can see, they're rounded. Very safe to touch, let's say. I wouldn't, now keep note, I wouldn't like want to push on them and play with them all the time, because if you do damage them, bend them or whatever, that could definitely prevent them from going in properly or functioning properly with your Legion Go. And then other than that, let's see how easy it is to put these back on. So just gonna, oh, that's it. That's pretty easy. And then for this one, let's go in. And it clicks. That's all it takes. Okay, let's turn it on. Let's see what it's like. Let's see if one press is all it takes. No, press and hold. Press and hold. Okay, pressing and holding is doing nothing. And then pressing the button does nothing. Let's plug it in. I'll be back. Now is a good time to talk about the length of this cable. Wow, this Velcro thing. Look how long this thing is. Wow, I could wrap this thing like 4 times. Actually, I think it was like 2.5, but still. I have no idea how much of me you could see right now. It's about my arm span. I'm about 5'10". So this cable is 6 feet, give or take. Now I gotta find an outlet somewhere here. Where do I have an outlet? So after a bit of fumbling around, I finally found, well, actually, I couldn't find an outlet close enough. So I finally got an extension cord, got this plugged in. I'm out of breath. Let's see how it works. First power up. Hey, so they chose green as their default. 53% battery. Wait, why wouldn't you turn on? What the hell do I have to do? Wait a minute. Okay, if I press the button once, now it turns on. You had half your battery and you just refused to turn on? Why? Oh, look at that. Portrait native display. Oh no. Actually, I don't care. I don't know if this will really be a problem. A lot of people have been like talking about it. Apparently some games may not work on a portrait native display, but we'll find out as time goes on. Once I make my like full review. Now I have to go through and set up Windows. Let's do some like movie magic where I come back in the future and everything will be set up. So see you soon. Hey, it's the future and I have it set up. Almost. I got some games installed. I got Windows updated and Legion Space updated. Now, with that said, I have a lot of thoughts on this during my whole setup process. But before that, let's talk about the specs. This has an AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor, which is the same one found in the ROG Ally. And then with that, it's got 16 gigs of DDR5 memory running at 7,500 megatransfers per second, which is pretty fast. This specific model I got with 1 terabyte of storage. However, you can also get it with 512 gigs of storage. And according to Lenovo and from what I've seen on other reviewers, it's very easy to get to the SSD and upgrade it yourself. And then for battery, we have a 49.2 watt hour battery, which is higher than what's found in the Steam Deck and also higher than what's found in the ROG Ally. Now onto the screen. This has an 8.8 inch 1600p display, which is 2560 by 1600, giving you an aspect ratio of 16 by 10. And the screen is gorgeous. It covers 97% of the DCI P3 color gamut. And I have to admit, when I was playing Spyro on here, it looked amazing. Seriously, colors were spectacular. The resolution is amazing. If you're playing a lower end game, you can definitely run it at 1600p. And then you can always also run it at 800p and it looks fine. But before that, let's talk about my thoughts. So first thing is when I started charging it. Check this out. Let me know if any of you noticed this. Ready? I'm about to plug in the charger. Now I want to make it clear. It doesn't matter if I plug it into the top or the bottom. It acts the same way. But watch this. Ready? Plug it in. Wait for it. That's it. It flashes the battery for a second. The joystick's LEDs light up for a second, and then they all turn off. There is absolutely no other indication on here that tells me it's charging. The joystick LEDs are off. The power LED is off. I don't see a single LED anywhere else on here that would signify it's charging. By the way, this is when it's turned off. This is not turned on right now. And if I press any button on here, move the joystick, click the joysticks, press any of these buttons, D-pad, you name it, nothing. It will not even flash the screen that shows me my battery life. Why? Why would you do that? Basically, if I press the power button, then I could see it and it turns the whole device on, which I don't want. What if I just want to charge it when it's turned off and then leave it alone and check on it every now and then until it gets maybe a certain battery life, and then I could, unplug it and start gaming. The only way to do that is by unplugging it and then plugging it back in and waiting for it to do that all over again. And look at that, we're at 71% now. That's extremely frustrating. They should seriously put some form of indication. I mean, they have an LED on the power button. You would think they would at least use that. I mean, this is a company that makes laptops, for goodness sake. This isn't their first rodeo. But anyway, I'm going to turn it on. Speaking of the charging, when I was downloading all my Steam games, I had it connected to a different 65-watt charger. I had Steam games downloading, probably a couple hundred gigs in games. I had Windows updates downloading, and that was it. I literally pressed download on both of those, put the device aside, waited like 2 hours, grabbed it back, and it went up 2% battery on a 65-watt charger. Now I know some of you might be saying, oh, it's a third-party charger, maybe that's why. Well, guess what? I grabbed the Lenovo charger. This is a Lenovo charger, by the way, in case any of you are wondering. And then, same thing. I went to Steam, downloaded some extra games because I was like, hey, let's see if it will charge better this time. It didn't. It was basically just keeping the device at a stable battery. Not cool. I plugged in my little USB multimeter and it was only drawing like 45 watts when it was at 50% battery. So I really hope that also gets fixed in a firmware update, because I would actually like my device to charge while playing a game or while doing anything partially intensive. I mean, we were downloading games. How demanding is that on this chip? Seriously. But anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about the interface. The interface is basically a clone of SteamOS. It's kind of funny. Honestly, if you told me this was Steam in big picture and you just put a custom skin on it, I would believe you. I would straight up believe you. As you can see here on the top down, It looks so similar from your library, game store. You know, there are differences, but like overall, it's not much different. And then what's cool is if we go to the library and you go to your games, they download the cover art for the games, which is very nice. And then, I don't know if you could tell, but they've got the little logo to show you where it's installed. So in this case, these are on Steam. I would think if I downloaded something on Epic Games, it would show me the Epic Games logo. Although I don't have any games I wanted to download from Epic Games. And then we have a game store. So you can see all these games that you could purchase. And it looks like Lenovo might have teamed up with like Games Planet, which I've never heard of them. So if you can tell here, like this game looks like you purchase it for Steam. You scroll down and it says Legion right over here, but then it's from Games Planet. So I guess this is maybe a way that Lenovo is trying to make back some of their profits or cost from this device, which is smart, you know? I mean, that's basically what Valve did, is that they lowered the price of their device knowing people are going to be buying more games and they can make their money back that way. And then here's another frustrating thing. We have a button up here for Legion Space and a button here for quick settings. Quick settings. I don't find it to be quick settings, because look at this. If I press this button, it opens up this menu on the left. The button's on the right. And then this is where you can see my recently played games, my downloads, which takes you to a whole new menu. It won't show it within that little sidebar. So I have to press this again. But look at that. Now it shows the menu on the right, not the original. So I have to press this again and then press it one more time to get here. And then you got settings, and your settings look like, I mean, the same interface that you would see on SteamOS. It's nothing fancy. But let's go back. This is really what bothers me, is that when you press this button, you don't know what side unless you remember which one it opened in last. So when I press it, it'll open left menu. Press it again, left menu goes away. Press it again, right menu comes up. And then this is where you have your actual, what I consider quick settings. So that way you have your resolution, your refresh rate, lighting effects. And then if you go to this menu right here, you have your battery life, performance monitor, frame monitor, thermal mode, you name it. And then these are just if you want the touchpad, external display as primary, etc. But it's extremely frustrating because, again, now if I want to go back to that, I have to press this 3 times to get back to this setting, when they should have made this button go to this setting and this button go to the other menu. But no, you know what this button does? It opens and minimizes Legion Space. So look at this. We got Legion Space. Press the button. We're in Windows. Press the button, Legion Space. Totally unnecessary. You know why? Because if I press this button, I can go home right here and it takes me to Legion Space. So watch this. Windows. Press the button. Press it again and again. And then I can press home and I'm in Legion Space. I would much rather that they totally reconfigure this or give me the option to reconfigure it, because that is extremely frustrating. And I don't know who designed this, but come on. It's so counterintuitive. And then you get your start and select down here. So you can't reprogram these to be completely different things. Other than that, that's really all I have to say in regards to Legion Space. Let's play some games. Or actually, no. Let's compare this to the Steam Deck. I'm going to take this charger off. We don't need you anymore. Goodbye. I want to compare the size of this to the Steam Deck, just so you guys get an idea. We're going to turn the screen off. And then here I've got my Steam Deck. Check it out. It's amazing how big this device feels compared to having the Steam Deck for so long. But in my opinion, it's not that much bigger. I mean, look at it, like side to side, it's almost identical. But then when you go this way, the Legion Go is ever so slightly taller. We're literally talking this much. If you look at the thickness, the Legion Go is actually much thicker, pretty much all around from what I could tell. But not a significant amount that it would actually bother me. I mean, personally, I still think both devices are fairly portable. I will admit that the Legion Go is bigger. And I have found the Steam Deck in some cases to be quite large for portability. I mean, when I go on an airplane, this Steam Deck, when I put it in the case, takes up so much of my backpack, but it's so worth it. So let's check out some of the gaming performance on this device. Now, as we know, Steam Deck runs at 15 watts, and you can configure it to be lower, but you can't go higher. Meanwhile, on the Legion Go, you can go all the way up to 30 watts if you want, but you can also go as low as 5, I believe. For now, I'm going to set this to the quiet mode, which I don't even know what TDP quiet mode is. I tried to look it up. I couldn't figure it out. And then what's annoying is frame monitor, when you hit all, doesn't show you the wattage drawn from neither the CPU nor the whole device. Also frustrating, and also something that I would have expected them to put on this, because it's a handheld device. That's one thing most of us want to know, is how much battery are we drawing, so we can have an idea of how much battery life we'll get from whatever we're doing. You show me my battery life. Great. That doesn't mean anything. Really frustrating. Instead, they prioritized the fan RPM. I don't know if you guys could read that from the screen, but they decided that the fan RPM was more important to have on this display than the battery wattage drawn from whether the device or the CPU or even both. So for fun, I'm going to start with Batman Arkham Asylum, or Arkham Knight actually. So I'm going to run it on my Steam Deck, and I'm also going to run it on the Legion Go. Now I'm going to start it off on the Legion Go at quiet mode. So we're going to run that. Let's have it open. It's okay, buddy. You can do it. Sooner or later, for whatever reason, Arkham Knight just doesn't want to run. So I'm going to stop it. I'm going to start it again. Okay, let's hit play. Launching. Is it going to launch? Why is it not launching? Failure. Hey, now it's running. That was very weird, but we got it to work. Let's see how the gaming performance is like compared to the Steam Deck. Right now, I've got Batman Arkham Knight running, and as you can see on the settings, although I'm not sure if you could read them, I've got it set both to 800p and then completely maxed out settings. And I'm going to run the quick benchmark. Note that the Steam Deck is at its full 15 watts power, and then the Legion Go is set to the quiet mode. And then I'm going to try it again in balanced and then performance just to see what kind of numbers we get. One thing I would like to mention is by default, the video memory usage by default is set to 3 gigabytes. Why? 3 gigabytes is rather low, and I know you can go in the BIOS and then you can configure it to be higher. Although the problem with this is that not everybody knows how to get to the BIOS. Not everyone buying this device is, super technical and super, like a tinkerer, so to speak. So when you're average Joe, or let's say, you're a parent and you buy this for your child because they saw it, they think it's cool, they want to play their games, and little do they know that it's not even running at its maximum potential because they didn't know you can go in the BIOS and configure that. They probably don't even realize there might be a difference in the quiet and performance modes. I mean, I'm sure they could figure out that part because it's at least an option available in front of you. What I don't understand is why can't they add the video memory usage as an option in the quick settings as well? Make it something in front of the user. Otherwise, if it's hidden, and not just hidden in a couple settings, I mean hidden like I gotta go to the BIOS, that's not gonna be very useful. I'm gonna start the benchmark on both, and I'm gonna see what kind of performance we can expect. And it's done. Basically, we got an average of 49 FPS on the Steam Deck, minimum at 32 and a maximum at 80. On the Legion Go, we got an average of 18 with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 27. So I had to go and do some digging around. And then I found out that basically quiet mode is about 10 watts TDP, with balanced being 15 watts and performance being 20. And then you can go to the custom mode if you want to get the full 30 watts of power. So with that, basically Steam Deck at 15 watts, this is running at 10, definitely unfair. So I'm actually going to switch it to 15 watts so you can actually compare this apples to apples. So my mistake. And now the next benchmark is done. Basically, I left the Steam Deck as it was, which got an average of 49 FPS. And then on Legion Go, we got an average of 52 FPS, both running at 15 watts, which I'm actually surprised. I was expecting the Legion Go to do a little better, but it didn't. It did better, just a little bit, not as much as I was hoping for. It could be due to either Windows, it could be Linux is better optimized. I have no idea. Another thing to note is that if I were to increase the VRAM usage on the Legion Go, I could possibly get better performance from that as well, because according to its settings, I'm using more VRAM than available. For fun, I'm going to run it again. I'm just going to put this at its maximum 30 watts and see what happens. The benchmarks are done. The Legion Go set at 30 watts, Steam Deck 15 watts. I don't know what went on, because I ran this benchmark over and over again, constantly changing the TDP, constantly changing the resolution, making sure the settings are set. I even closed the game and opened it back up. But for whatever reason, the frame rates I'm getting off the built-in benchmark are lower than the Steam Deck's, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, for example, Steam Deck averaged 50 FPS. Legion Go, 32. Steam Deck's minimum, 34. Legion Go, 25. Steam Deck's maximum, 93. I reran this again, so the numbers are a little different than earlier. But anyway, maximum, 93. Legion Go, 57. Why? I don't get it, because yesterday I ran this benchmark and I got over 100 FPS for like my maximum, and it did really well for the averages, significantly better than a Steam Deck. But right now, no matter what I do, it just will not reach those numbers it reached yesterday. And again, I don't know if it's due to the VRAM or something else, but I've never changed the VRAM the entire time I've owned this device. So that inconsistency is pretty annoying, because I've ran this benchmark numerous times on the Steam Deck and the numbers have always been around the same each and every time. Is it a Legion Go problem? Is it a Windows problem? Is there something going on in the background? I even made sure Windows Update wasn't running in the background, and it wasn't. So as far as I know, nothing's running in the background. So now I'm going to try another game. I'm going to run Spyro the Dragon. So right now I'm playing Spyro, and I'm getting about 100 frames per second with it in the custom mode. So I'm running at 30 watts right now, which is pretty good. But here's the thing. Once I unplug it, my frame rate starts to drop. Now I'm at 97, 104, 87. I think I have a weird glitch. So right now I'm going to go to balance mode, and I'm going to go back to Spyro. So right now in balance mode, I'm getting about 47, 50 FPS, which is expected. Now remember, balance mode is roughly 15 watts TDP. And then when I plug it in, let's see what happens. Now it's shooting up 80, 90, 84. So it looks like by default, it's set to use full power when it's plugged in. So right now I'm anywhere from 80 to 100 frames per second. It's pretty good. But then when I unplug it, now I drop back down to about 50. So I guess that's a good thing that it does use full power when it's plugged in. But here's the issue. So right now I'm in the balance profile. What happens when I switch back to custom? So now I'm going to custom mode right over here, 30 watts, and I'm still at 50 FPS. It seems that when I'm in the middle of a game, it doesn't change the profile. So right now it's giving me the performance it did at 15 watts, even though I set it to 30 watts just earlier. And I don't understand why it's doing that. Now, if I plug it in again, it's going to go all the way to max power. So now it's going to go up to about 100 watts. or 100 frames per second. Yeah, so we're getting about 100 frames per second, fluctuating, can be as low as like 85. And then what happens if I unplug it? Now I unplug it and it dropped again. Even though I'm set to 30 watts, it's not using 30 watts. Very interesting. So let's go back. There. Let's go 3 times mode, bring this down. I'm gonna move my Steam Deck out of the way. I was planning to compare the two with this weird glitch going on. It's completely pointless. So if I press this button, it's gonna open up Legion Space. And then now I can show you that we are at 30 watts, but it's not acting like it's in 30 watts. It's not giving it 30 watts of power, and I don't understand why that is. If I go to performance mode, and then let's go back to the game, let's see what happens. So performance mode, I'm getting roughly 80 FPS. So performance mode is working, getting about 85 FPS, which is good. Okay, so I'll take that. Now, let's go back to Legion Space, and then I'm gonna switch it to something even lower. So I'm gonna go down to balance mode. Now in balance mode, it should run at roughly 50, 60 FPS. Press the button again, go to Spyro, continue. Okay, so now I'm getting about 50 to 60 FPS. Not sure if you guys can read it on the screen. Now let's go back to performance mode. So let's pause, performance mode, go back, and then let's go to the game. And we're at 90 FPS, 77, 86. I mean, it fluctuates. I'm running around and I'm doing stuff. But now let's go higher. Let's go to 30. So Legion Space, go Legion Space, performance, custom, and 30. Go back and Spyro. And we're getting 48 FPS, 50 FPS. So there's clearly something wrong with the custom button, because it doesn't seem to be doing what it should be doing. Right now, I'm getting the performance I would in like 10, 15 watts rather than 30, which is actually really frustrating. Extremely frustrating, actually. And then again, I'm gonna go back to performance mode. So I'm gonna hit performance, Spyro, and now I'm up to 75, 78. But it's not giving me that 90. Oh, there we go. 90 FPS. It went up. So performance mode works, balanced works, and quiet works, but the custom mode is not working for me. It worked earlier. By earlier, I mean much earlier and yesterday when I was initially playing with this. And then now it's not working, and I have no idea why. I have absolutely no clue why. Whatever. Again, I'm going to play with this a lot more. I'm going to take my time with it, and I'm going to provide an in-depth review much later on. So that way I can actually give you my true thoughts and basically what I've had to configure and what I've had to keep the way it is. With that said, all that's left is FPS mode, the one feature that they talked about a lot, which I really didn't care. So I'm going to take out these controllers. And actually, before I go into FPS mode, I want to see what it's like playing with these controllers detached. So removing these controllers, you just push this button in the back and they just come right off. Yeah, it's not too bad. I can actually, yeah, I can probably get used to this. I can definitely get used to this. I can see this being especially useful when you're charging your device. Yeah, although I have a complaint, and it's these joysticks and the D-pad. Check this out. Something I noticed between all this testing. You ready? Let's go 3x. Now check out this dead zone. You ready? Ready? Look at this. Look how much I'm going. Still no movement. Now I'm moving. Did you see how much that took? I'm gonna move it again the other way. I'm going, I'm going, I'm going. Finally movement. I'm literally at like a 30-degree angle. That is ridiculous in terms of a dead zone. I did not expect that. I will be honest, this is the only game I tried it on, so I don't know if it's a built-in dead zone in Spyro, or if this is a dead zone on these joysticks themselves. Again, I will play with it more later, but for now, that's just something I noticed. And it's on both, actually. So watch this. On the left one, or on the right one, I'm going to move it, and it's finally moving the camera. Now stop. Stop. Yep, there we go. And it stopped. That's a pretty massive dead zone. And then another thing that drove me crazy, and I mentioned earlier, I didn't like the D-pad much. And now I really don't like the D-pad. Listen to this. I don't know if it picked it up, but when you are moving the D-pad like a circular motion, like I would be, let's say if I'm playing this game, kind of like this, let's say I got to make a left turn, make a right turn, it squeaks. There's so much squeaking. That's actually really annoying. And this is final hardware, production hardware. I don't know if this is something that will eventually break in and, you know, not make a sound anymore, but it's actually really, really annoying. And then because of these dead zones, like playing Spyro, I pretty much want to use the D-pad because it seems to be, you know, easier to control Spyro with the D-pad, but then it squeaks. If I use one or the other, I am annoyed. It actually really sucks. But whatever, let's try FPS mode. So you got your, looks like right button, which is also your mouse and mouse 2, and then scroll wheel. So now if I was to play Spyro, yeah, this is something I'll take some getting used to if you're a shooter, I guess. Okay, well, I'm in mouse mode, FPS mode basically. You could see the mouse moving. I will admit this would probably take some getting used to unless you're normally using a vertical mouse. I don't. I'm not a fan of them. I will say, due to the size of my hands, that I wish this was slightly taller. I know it sounds weird, but I wish it was a little taller because so when my hand rests right on here, the hockey puck area, I find it a little annoying to press this button, but it's very easy to press this one. But that's only because I feel like my hand just kind of cramped and it wants to push this out. Another thing that's extremely annoying is this joystick. It keeps rubbing against me when I'm like using this, and it just feels like I'm going to break it. It feels like I'm going to wear out this joystick or break it, even though it's all sensor based. Not a big fan. And then the pogo pins, sometimes I feel them, sometimes I don't. It's the joystick is what really gets me. As for the pogo pins, sometimes they'll brush up right against like the palm of my hand up here. However, because they're so rounded, they don't hurt. They don't like, you know, pinch you or stab you or anything like that, but you do feel them. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but you definitely feel them whenever you're, you know, whenever they're brushing up against your arm or your palm. And then the scroll wheel is all the way back here. So if I'm holding this, I got to reach my thumb back really far, which is just, again, not what I would like to see. I would have preferred if they put it over here or closer to the front, because then with my thumb, especially right here, I'll be able to actually get to it while still holding these two buttons very easily. But instead, I have to reach really far back, which just doesn't feel comfortable. Now, if I'm holding this wrong, let me know. But to me, naturally, I want to hold it like this. If I meant to hold it, I don't know, this way? Yeah, no, this way feels most natural to me, right here, like this. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. Not a big fan of this FPS mode. To be fair though, I didn't buy it for the FPS mode. I actually couldn't care less about FPS mode. My reasoning for purchasing this tablet, or this handheld actually, was a few reasons. One, the screen. I wanted something with a much nicer screen than the Steam Deck, and this has it. The screen on this is absolutely gorgeous, and I would not mind watching movies on it either. You know, like if I was on a plane and I didn't feel like playing any games, I could definitely pop open a movie and it would look gorgeous on here. Another reason I wanted it was it's got a trackpad, which makes navigating Windows significantly easier than using a joystick or the touchscreen. So that's a huge plus for me. And then the other thing is it's got the Z1 Extreme CPU, so it's a lot more powerful than the Steam Deck, and you have the options of going to much higher TDPs, so you can really unlock some extra power whenever you need it. And unlike a lot of people, when I game, I usually game only for like 30 minutes to an hour. So even setting this to 30 watts and my battery life being, say, an hour is plenty for me. I'm one of those people that mostly plays before bed, so I could see this being very helpful. Not helpful, but it's nice because I can crank it up to max power, play for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you know, and then after that, put it to sleep, plug it into power and let it charge overnight, and then repeat the next day. But at the same time, I can also drop it down to 15 watts if I want to save power, or if I'm like on a plane, I got battery banks that can provide 65 watts of power. It may not charge quickly, but it'll keep it sustained. So that's something. Yeah, and other than that, I mean, the device itself is really cool. I know I've mentioned a lot of negative things. When it works, it's amazing. amazing. Let's put it that way. Because earlier I had Spyro running at 100 frames per second, which was amazing. And then I was able to set it to 1600p and low settings, and I was still able to get like 50, 60 FPS, and it looked gorgeous. I mean, honestly, like playing Spyro at 1600p low settings looked so much nicer than 720p ultra settings, at least to my eyes. And on top of that, the colors and everything really pop and are very vibrant, while on the Steam Deck it's just very washed out. And then there's all the light bleed on the Steam Deck, which I'm not a big fan of. But either way, I mean, overall, this thing's been great. I still need to play with it. I need to test it out, figure out what's going on, especially with that power glitch that I showed. And yeah, other than that, I mean, okay, some people on Reddit have mentioned wanting to use this as a tablet. I wouldn't, and here's my reason why. Yes, I can remove the controllers, and now it's basically a tablet. But here's my concern. First off, this thing is like 2 to 3 times thicker than your typical tablet. And then on top of that, this was designed to be a gaming handheld. And I mean that for a reason. That doesn't mean you can't use it as a tablet. The reason is when they design stuff like this, they don't want heat on the joysticks or these controllers, which means all the heat is going to end up being here in the center. Because that's where the CPU is. That's where your RAM is. That's where your VRAM is, or your VMs, whatever that, you know, those little chips around the CPU. I mumble a lot. I'm sorry, guys. But regardless, all the heat is here in the center. And when it's all in the center, when this is getting hot, like if you're doing something that's a little more demanding, it's going to be on your hands. While if you had the controllers attached, the heat will be away from your hands because you're not touching the screen. You're not touching the back of this device. You know, when you put your hands over here, I mean, this area right now is warm. This area has been actually surprisingly okay, but it's not meant to be a tablet. Funny enough, the screen is from one of their tablets. And then here's the other thing, is using this as a tablet, these corners right here, they're slightly rounded, ever so slightly, but not very rounded like a phone would be, for example, or maybe some other devices. So when you're like holding it like this, it really tends to dig into the palm of my hand right over here. And same thing on this side. And then on top of everything I just mentioned, this thing is heavy. For a handheld, the weight's fine. But to be used as a tablet, especially an 8.8-inch tablet, this thing is actually pretty heavy. Like you can really feel the weight compared to if you had like a Kindle Fire HD 8, which has an 8-inch screen, or an iPad mini, or I believe some of Samsung's tablets are also smaller. Or if you just got the Lenovo tablet that has this screen. I personally do not see why I would want this to be used as a tablet. You could if you needed to in a pinch, but I would not use it daily as a tablet. I would consider this to be more of a gaming handheld or like a portable PC if you wanted to dock it, use it on a monitor, on a with a keyboard, a mouse, and all that stuff. So yeah, with that said, don't get me wrong, I'm still very excited that I've received this product. And when I say received it, I mean like it came in the mail. I paid for this with my own money. Lenovo did not send it to me. They didn't sponsor me. They didn't pay me. Either way, it's an awesome device. And I cannot wait for that 3 months mark or that 6 months mark when the software is pretty much rock solid. Right now, I mean, it's day like 2 of release and it's gonna be buggy. It's gonna be glitchy. I did have concerns on some stuff that can't be fixed by software, like the squeaky D-pad, rubberized grips on the joysticks, but overall, or the scroll wheel location and some other stuff, you know, you can't fix that over software, but those aren't things that are the end of the world, and they're very easy to get used to. My favorite thing, though, is just the fact that I now have a gaming handheld with a nice screen and really powerful once I could fully figure out how to take advantage of the power without it deciding not to give it to me. With that said, hope you guys liked my first impressions. I know I rambled a lot, but hey, if you guys can give me a like and subscribe, I'd love to see you guys in the next one. I should be getting the AYN Odin 2 next week. So I'm planning an unboxing and first impressions on that too, which is going to be a small Android-powered gaming handheld. That one will be very fun to play with. With that said, thanks for watching. See ya!